Welcome everyone to what's going to be a kind of an experimental video. A few hours ago, I played a local tournament at the St. Louis Chess Club. It was a weekly quad event, and in one of my games, I played a good friend of mine. I am Kostya Kavutskiy of Chess Dojo. You can check out his amazing content. Link will be below. We played a very instructive and hard-fought rapid game. And I filmed the whole thing, and I have the game, video of the game on one laptop. On another laptop, I have the game itself. And what I'm going to do is some voiceover, kind of pseudo live commentary of the game. I haven't done this before. I really hope that you enjoy it. Hopefully, it makes for good content. If you like it, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you want to see more of this. But let's hop into the game. So I will say I did a little bit of preparation for him beforehand, and I knew I was going to play e4 and try and trick him into a Sicilian that he would be less comfortable with. And I started with knight c3, which I've played over the years. Actually gave a lecture a few years ago for the St. Louis Chess Club on how to win with knight c3. And then I played knight f3, so I'm keeping the option open of transposing into an open Sicilian, but he stops that with pawn e5, and I play bishop to c4. And we're entering a variation which I had a little bit of knowledge, but I hadn't reviewed recently. So I was kind of on my own from a preparation standpoint, but I still knew some basic ideas. And the move I just played, knight d2, we're going to see the point of after g6, knight to f1. I spend several moves moving my knight, but the idea is now I'm controlling this very weak d5 square in black's position. Now Kostya's unfazed. I'm sure he's aware that this is still some opening theory. And we're still in some, I think, known territory. I played knight d5. And this is basically where my knowledge of the position ends. I put my knight on the nice outpost square, and I know I have ideas of pawn to f4 at some point, but black is very, very solid. Apart from the d5 square, it's really hard to find any major weaknesses in black's position. And from here, it's going to be a fight. So he plays king h7, which is a very logical move, getting the king off the diagonal of my light squared bishop. And with this move, he is very much ready to play pawn to f5. And this is where I take my first kind of extended think of the game, trying to figure out the best approach for white. And I decide to go for pawn to f4, essentially not wasting any time with other moves, but trying to open up the king side. In some sense, the rook and bishop support the pawn. I wanted to make it so black would maybe have some difficult decision to make. Of course, there's tension between the pawns, and I wasn't entirely sure what to expect from Kostya here. But he decided to take, which did surprise me a little bit, because this allows me to very simply recapture with my bishop and develop my final minor piece into the game. Oh no, my focus. Apologies for the focus issues. I was recording with my iPhone. Yeah, so I was feeling pretty good here, but after knight e5, black has clear intentions of removing this bishop and maybe just getting the bishop pair. He's also blocking my dark square bishop from attacking d6. Now I simply move back to b3, maintaining the bishop pair. And again, I was feeling very comfortable. I think white has really nice piece harmony, but black still has a stable position. And Kostya was taking his time. Now you'll see me glance briefly at the other game because the two other players were in our same quad, and I was going to play them in the subsequent rounds. So I was making a mental note of what opening was happening in their game. Yeah, very quickly I had to refocus on my game. And Kostya plays f5, which is a very energetic move. The idea not only is now the rook is trying to get involved, basically similar ideas from when I played pawn f4, He wants to have a trade on f5 so the bishop or knight can activate. But he also has an idea here of playing g5, and if my bishop retreats, then f4. Now, I decided to play queen d2 and keep all the tension in the position. And I was very much aware that g5 is a possible move for black. And we can see Kostya deliberating here. Now, he has spent a little bit more time early in the game. I'm up about a minute on the clock. Now, with queen d2, I'm just trying to make all my pieces happy. The queen and bishop now have a battery directed towards h6, and my rook is ready to come to e1. So I'm just trying to get ready for the position maybe opening up even more, especially with the pawn tension. Now, Kostya does play g5, attacking the bishop. And this put me in a slightly awkward position, because if I move my bishop back to e3 or g3, I get hit with f4, and black is getting a lot of space there. With initiative, the bishop drops back to f2 in those cases. There'd be knight g4, and I was already like fearing knight takes g4 and bishop d4. So I was trying to figure out my alternative in this position. And it was a critical moment, so I was taking a bit of time. Now, the candidate moves I had were, of course, the bishop retreats. I very briefly considered bishop takes g5. But ultimately, I decide for knight takes e7, which is a nice in-between move. Because now if black takes the bishop, I'm happy to take on f5 with the knight, and white would be coming out on top in that line. I think Kostya considered this briefly. I mean, pretty soon he realized he has to take the knight. I was surprised he took this long to make the recapture. But once he does, I get more initiative. I'm leaving my bishop attacked by the pawn because I'm just making bigger threats, hitting the queen. He drops back to d8. And now I'm actually still in the same predicament. I have to decide what to do with my bishop. Do I retreat? Do I concede the bishop pair and take on e5? And we're going to see, but one of the reasons why I went for the trade on e7 to put my other knight on d5 is after I trade on e5, I no longer have a knight on c3. So when he takes with the bishop, I play pawn c3. And even though I conceded the bishop pair, my knight is really happy. And this bishop is actually somewhat restricted because now there's ideas of d4. There's no attack against b2. It might look scary that the bishop's aimed towards h2, but there's not really a great way for black to add any attackers to the king side. So Kostya again takes a bit of a think. And I was feeling good here, like even though I conceded the bishop pair, my knight is so powerful on d5. It's just a long-term outpost. And if the bishop were ever to trade for the knight, my bishop would land on d5, which would also be a powerful piece. So he opted for pawn takes pawn. Now, crazily enough, the engine in this position will find an engine move. Engine says queen e3 is winning. I didn't consider that. I took back, which I think is like the most natural move. Sometimes in rapid chess, it can be easy to make these automatic captures and not consider other options in a position like that. And the reason why he took on e4 is now this pawn is isolated, so I don't have these d4 ideas. And this bishop is actually very stable now on e5. It's very, very hard for white to ever remove the dark square bishop, essentially because I don't have a dark square bishop of my own. So here Kostya takes a bit of a think. I might speed up the video to just get to the point where he moves. But we can see based on the time situation, things are looking nice for me. I'm up almost 3 minutes on the clock. Bishop d7 is played, which is a logical move, eventually aiming to get the rook involved from a8. And I don't think he played bishop e6 because he was probably worried about like rook f8 and knight c7 ideas. And bishop d7, maybe he's aiming for bishop to c6. So here I take somewhat of a think, because even though my pieces are decently placed, it's still a matter of coming up with a plan for white. And I was trying to figure out how to further improve the position. And sometimes the question to ask yourself in a position like this is, which piece can be improved? And I actually decided that my knight could be improved. Even though it looked good on d5, it wasn't actually doing that much. And it was blocking my bishop and my queen, both of which are now unleashed. And with knight e3, I have the idea of knight to f5, with potential really nice outpost square supported by the pawn and the rook. So I'm still trying to make gradual improvements. He plays queen to e7, which is a solid looking move. Connecting the rooks, going for rook e8 most likely. And now I took another bit of a think, because I was really wanting to play knight f5, but I was trying to assess the transformation that would likely happen, because if I play knight f5, black can take with the bishop. And then, assuming I take back with the pawn, a lot of things have changed where then it becomes an obstacle bishop situation. I was trying to figure out if there's any chances for white to still be better there, because obstacle bishops have a tendency of being drawish. Now, there are other options for white in this position. I could leave the knight on e3 and maybe play a move like g3 or rook d1. I do eventually play knight to f5. Kostya very quickly takes. And we're going to see the rapid game is quickly turning into a blitz game. Both of us falling lower on time. Now, by taking back with the pawn, I do a lot of things. For one, I do get a defended pass pawn on f5. I'm also looking to control the e6 square. But then Kostya plays a very annoying looking move, bishop to f4, simultaneously attacking the queen and blocking my rook from defending the f5 pawn. We should note f5 is not capturable because bishop c2, but he's trying to weaken f5 and create a situation where he can't capture it. Now, I had seen this position coming, and originally I was going to play queen d3, but once we got to this position, I realized I have another option, and you can see me contemplating here. But it turns out I don't have to move my queen. There's a really interesting counterattack that white can play where I just leave my queen on d2. I play rook ae1, counterattacking black's queen. And during the game, I had a feeling that Kostya maybe overlooked this move, because sometimes when you attack your opponent's queen, you expect it to just move away. But with this move, I make a situation where if black takes my queen, I'll take on e7 with check, and then I'll be winning the b7 pawn. So black has to move away. Kostya plays queen to g7. And now I can happily move my queen. I was debating where to move it. I mean, d5 was an option, and d3. I think these were the two main moves I was debating between. And I play queen d3, setting up pawn f6 check to maybe get some tactics. Though pawn f6 would allow queen g6. I think Kostya did not want any of this. And for that reason, he plays rook to f6, simply blockading the pawn. And then I play bishop to e6, having a really nice construction in black's territory. My pawn defends the bishop defends the pawn, and because of the obstacle bishop situation, it's very difficult for black to ever remove the pawn or the bishop without sacrificing material. So he essentially has to play around these pieces for the next many, many moves. I play queen d5, and we can see things kind of closing down. Like, I'm trying to further optimize my pieces. Queen d5, blockades d6, pressures b7. I also had ideas of potentially sacking on e5. Thought maybe that would be the eventual way to make progress. Kostya plays g4, which I think is a nice practical move. He's trying to create some opportunity on the king side, maybe get some pawn storm, maybe get in g3. I did have to be careful about my king becoming a target on g1. And we can see my time advantage is still there, but it's dissipating with every second that ticks away. No longer up over a minute on the clock. I'm falling below 3 minutes. I was just trying to figure out a plan here. The position is so closed, and this construction for black is quite stable. I play rook e4. He plays pawn h5. So I was trying to pressure the fourth rank. Yeah, I can only do so much. So I play rook d1. I'm really trying to set up some eventual sacrifice. My dream was to play queen c4, rook e5, and then rook d7. But after rook f8, and black is just being solid. And positions like this can sometimes be frustrating because on one hand, position's very nice, white should be better, but at the same time, it's hard to figure out a way to make progress. For Kostya, he's just chilling. He's just kind of waiting for what my plan will be. And very soon, we're going to see my whole time advantage disappear. Yeah, I'm officially down on time. And sometimes this is one of my weaknesses in online chess and over-the-board chess, where I'll just let my time drain. And sometimes these positions just call for quick moves. Kostya plays b6, I play a4. I realize that if I'm going to make progress, it's probably on the queen side. I have ideas of maybe eventually a5 or even b4. He plays rook h6. And now I was realizing that the position is not that simple on the king side, because now there's ideas of pawn h4. And I have to be really careful about the structure crumbling and my king getting very unsafe. So I was looking for a way to try and tame his attack. But I don't have much time to think. Sometimes when I get low on time and I get nervous, I start blinking a lot. But every time I blink, I usually think at least one move ahead. So I play king g2. I figured my king is better on a light square, so this bishop can't touch it. Kostya plays king h8, essentially for the same reason. My bishop can't touch the black king, so our kings are on slightly safer squares. But my time is still ticking. I fall below a minute. And in my mind, I'm telling myself what to do, what to do. But that thought process doesn't really help. So, okay, I played queen to g4, which essentially stops a pawn from moving because I create the battery against the g pawn. So I was just trying to hold my ground and keep the position stable. Kostya plays queen b7. Nice geometrical move. Transferring the queen to the queen side. Pinning my rook on e4. So now my queen is tied down. And I have to be very careful not to blunder anything simple. Now, of course, I have a move like bishop d5 and maybe repeat. But I go for pawn to b4. I'm really trying to break through here. I figure that there's no threat with a pin, and anytime I want, I can play bishop to d5. And with pawn b4, I'm just trying to open some file on the queen side and maybe take advantage of the fact that in some cases this d-pawn can be overworked. Now Kostya's falling below a minute. And there's still so much tension, so much life left in the position. And what started as a rapid game is now very quickly turning into a bullet game. Kostya plays pawn a6, which looks like an innocent waiting move, maybe preparing pawn to b5. I play queen d5, offering a queen trade. Now there was a 2-second increment, so very soon you're going to see both of us just surviving on the increment. I figured that due to the time situation, it would be easier to play without queens on the board. And Kostya takes. I hesitate for a moment. I take with a rook. And now rook h7. Now the game next to us is getting exciting, but I have no time to watch it because I have to focus on my own game. I'm below 10 seconds. I play pawn a5, trying to weaken the queen side. And here we're going to see the queen side just explode. I lose c3. I win b6. I lose b4. I win d6. Rook b8 trying to tame my passed pawn. I play rook c4, a5. Now rook c7, trying to make some headway. Pawn a4. I play bishop c8, sneaky move. a3. And all of a sudden, rook d8, checkmate. A very abrupt ending to what was just a kind of crazy finish. And we can see the game next to us also having a crazy finish. It turns out that bishop c8 was a completely winning move for white. Just to show some quick analysis, if rook takes on c7, I would happily take back, and then rook c8 is met with rook d8. And this is completely winning for white. Otherwise, I believe rook a8 is met with bishop to b7. The pawns are just too slow, and white is queening. So it's a very crazy game. I really haven't had a chance to analyze so much with the engine, but I will leave a link to the game in Elite Chess Study. So if you want to analyze it, feel free to do so. And let me know your thoughts about this video format. Let me know if you want to see more content like this. I'm very much open to suggestions for improvement. So thanks so much for watching. If you like this, subscribe and stay tuned for more content.